We begin tonight with breaking news. UAW leadership voting to send the tentative deal with General Motors to the rank and file for ratification.
Action News also learning that the strike will continue in the meantime. 7 Action News reporter Jim Kurtzner is at the RenCen with inside information on what's happening right now. Jim.
Yeah, Glenda, this closed-door meeting just wrapping up, and I want to talk right now with Tim O'Hara, who's the UAW local president from Lordstown, Ohio. You were here fighting to keep your plant open. 3 of the 4 General Motors plants that were set to be closed will be closed. Do you consider this a lost battle now, or where do you go from here, sir?
Well, until the membership votes on this agreement, it's not a lost battle because they could potentially turn it down by a majority. And obviously, any of us from Lordstown are extremely disappointed that we didn't survive through these negotiations. And, we're also angry at GM for, what we feel they set us up to fail. And, there was no reason to stop building the Cruze. It was a great car, perfect small car, and, we were always willing to do whatever we needed to do to make our plant survive.
You and I talked yesterday. General Motors actually moved production of the Cruze down to Mexico.
They did start building a hatchback version of the Cruze in Mexico, and we originally thought that we could potentially get that vehicle when we started building the Cruze in 2010, but they sent the work to Mexico along with a lot of the other vehicles, and our stance has always been they should build here what they sell here. And that remains. Maybe we're not going to survive, but there are a lot of other plants that could get the same fate that we did, right? Because if they did it to us, they can do it to anyone.
How much of an uphill battle is this for you now to convince the rank and file to vote this down? 46,000 members, when they're going to get an $11,000 signing bonus, they're going to get pay raises over 4 years. They're going to get a lot of money in this contract.
Well, I can only speak for local 11-12 members, and I'm sure that probably the vast majority will end up voting no matter if they're still in Lordstown or if they're scattered throughout the 7 states that GM basically sent them over the last several months.
Right, 1,200 of your 1,500 workers had to leave to keep their jobs.
Correct.
What kind of a campaign, what will be your message to rank and file over the next week or 2 to try to get them to vote this down?
I don't think we really have to tell them anything because they experienced what happened to them. And, they're smart, they're tough, they've been through a lot at Lordstown and Local 11-12, and, they're going to vote their conscience.
I heard a lot of your members saying, it's us today, it could be other UAW members tomorrow down the road, in the same boat.
Correct. Yes, and, I don't know if you remember back in December of 2018, Mary Barra said that potentially in 2020 there could be more plant unallocations or closing or whatever they decide to call them next year. So, yeah, everybody needs to be aware of that.
And this contract can't stop that?
Apparently not, according to the language that we've seen.
And what is coming to Lordstown is a battery plant of some sort that'll be for all electric vehicles. And here in Detroit Hamtramck is getting an all-electric truck. What can you tell us was discussed in there about those 2 entities?
Really nothing was discussed about the potential for the battery plant or the Hamtramck vehicles. But I'm sure when they have their rollout at Hamtramck, it'll be discussed up there, as well as when the International comes down to Local 11-12 to discuss the particulars of this potential battery facility.
You don't know at this point how many jobs? You don't know if it's General Motors or a joint venture?
No details are too sketchy yet on that, so I have no clue about number of jobs, who's going to own it, anything like that.
Last question I have for you. This has been a tough 31-day strike, but you've been living this since March when your plant closed. You're driving back home tonight with what kind of thoughts, sir?
Well, like I said, I'm disappointed, I'm angry, and I'm sick for all of our members. For the last 53 years, they've built over 16 million vehicles for General Motors, and it's just a sad day for the Mahoning Valley, for all of us.
Thank you very much, sir. And we understand right now that UAW leadership is holding a news conference one floor up. Let's take that right now.
Very interesting day today. I'd like to, first of all, introduce myself. My name is Brian Rothenberg. I'm the Director of Public Relations for the United Auto Workers. We just finished a meeting of the UAW-GM Council. I believe most of you have gotten some of the highlights that we have put out today. You will be receiving a press release shortly that the UAW-GM Council has voted to recommend for ratification the contract. However, they have also recommended that we remain on the strike line until the vote on ratification. Ratification meetings will start on Saturday, and they are expected to have their ballots turned in on a week from Friday or 8 days from now. So, I need to, first of all, on behalf of the UAW, thank our UAW-GM members and their families who have put in overwhelmingly sacrifice. They have made an incredible effort at showing what union is. They have stood on the lines together because they stood up for things that they felt were important and continue to do so. Their leaders are incredibly grateful, I can tell you that from the meeting, and incredibly, profoundly impacted by the overwhelming support of the community, of the different cities that we are in, of this nation. This strike actually became more than just a strike for the UAW. It was about the hearts and minds of American workers and the middle class. It was an outpouring of support that I think President Jones and Vice President Dittus said they will never, ever forget. It was that profound. And we thank people for all the goods and services that they've given us, their friends and their neighbors, for the outpouring of support. As you know, we went on strike over the issues of a path to permanency for temporary workers, job security, fair wages, affordable quality health care, and a fair share of the profits. I will go through some of the highlights that you already have seen that are on UAW.org. The contract gives full-time temporary workers a shortened path to permanent status and into a regular status of a job, and improves their paid and unpaid time off for temporary workers. We would hope that this contract, once our members weigh in, and they are the ultimate authority, but regardless of what this contract ends up, that this issue dealing with permanent temporary workers is the beginning of the end of permatemps, not only in this industry, but in this nation. There will be no change to the health care plan. There will be a ratification bonus of $11,000 for hourly workers and a ratification bonus of $11,000 for salaried workers. The cap has been lifted on profit sharing. Many of you know that GM has made $34 billion in profits over the past 3 years. One of those years they exceeded $12 billion in profits, and they were capped, so our members could not share in those profits above $12 billion. It adds money to their personal savings of $1,000. It provides a progression for all current workers to $32.32 in 4 years. It shortens the progression time, and all of the current employees that are regular employees would be at 32.32. It provides wage increases of 3% gross wage increase, 2 years, and 4% lump sums. The skilled trades will get a $1,000 tooling allowance. The legal services benefit plan now includes spouses and additional services. Vacation has been enhanced. Many of our members would be forced to use what little vacation they had when they started, 2 weeks, during the shutdown in July. They will now only have to 1 week, and they will have the option with the other time to use it or go on layoff where they can get unemployment. And there are bonuses built in to this contract for eligible production workers up to 2,000 who retire between December 31st of this year and February 28th of 2020. So I will take a few questions. At this point in time, I want to emphasize that, as you saw today, the UAW is a democratic union. Our members will make this decision, the members of General Motors. That is the commitment of Vice President Dittus and President Jones, and that is what will happen. And understand that it is their contract, it is in their hands, and the decision has been made that they will stay out until the ratification day. And that came directly from the leadership body downstairs. One other issue, while we were in our meeting today, Aramark hit a TA, tentative agreement. Rod?
Okay, we've been following the news conference one floor up inside the RenCen here with Brian Rothenberg. He is the spokesperson for the United Auto Workers Union, the UAW Council, the local plant leaders, local union presidents, and shop chairs meeting here for some 6 hours behind closed doors. Some members saying it was contentious, others saying it was just a good-spirited debate, but they do approve to send this tentative agreement to the 46,000 members of the UAW inside General Motors to ratify it, and those members will then decide if it lives or dies. But the other key vote that was taken here is the strike will continue until that ratification process is done, and that process will take at least a week. So the strike in 31 days is still not over, may go at least one more week. Reporting live downtown, Jim Kurtzner, 7 Action News.
All right, Jim, thank you so much for bringing us that information first. He's right there in the middle of it, but of course, no relief yet for the workers who are on the picket line. And we did hear Brian Rothenberg, who is the PR for the UAW, say that Saturday the vote could happen. So we still have some time that the strike continues.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then we do have more coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. And then again, we have all this information posted on our website, WXYZ.com.